everyone, welcome back to another devlog. In this video we're gonna build brand new features for my game Cave. In the previous devlog I've shown how I implemented the mining mechanic, as well as the inventory system. The problem is that the game is not that much fun right now due to its limitations in the gameplay. While playing I realized there is no real incentive for the player to go out and mine all these materials. After smelting them into ingots, there is nothing really you can do with them. Another thing that really annoys me right now is that the game is not really challenging. When you look at other games like Dark Souls or Minecraft, they all have certain game mechanics that lead the player to make impactful and very important decisions. The game currently doesn't feel like you're in an actual cave. I want to change that by applying particle effects, lighting. I also realized that I want to show the feeling of being alone in a very lonely place, a dark place. And even this cave is full of treasure and full of surprises. I also want it to be a bit more dark and mysterious. In order to organize all my thoughts and all these ideas I have, I went ahead and created a Trello board. After writing up all the stories and assigned them to milestones, I thought about what I'm gonna do next. The main priority for this video is focusing on the mood, improving the lighting, adding additional sound effects, but also reworking the inventory system so the player can move items around and throw them away again. Jumping in game, you see that there is currently no real lighting applied. Adding that in Godot is actually quite straightforward, but to do that we need to do something first. In order to create the lighting we need two things. We need to create a light mask that is used for the shadow, and we need also a light mask which is basically an image that is used for the light. After creating them, I directly imported them into Godot engine. Now I'm gonna create a shadow, and this shadow is supposed to make everything dark. For that I'm gonna use a light 2D, and I'm gonna assign the shadow PNG texture we previously created. It is very important to stretch it to the size of the screen so everything will be dark around us. It looks currently quite bright, so I'm gonna change the mode to mix, and I'm gonna decrease the energy. So this will result in everything being around being darker. However, when starting the game it looked a bit weird and the shadow doesn't really move. To fix those issues we have to make the light move with the player. However, I don't want to connect them, so I'm going to use a remote transform to adjust the position of the light. In order to fix these lighting glitches, I'm going to add a background image. It has a solid color, and this allows us to really fix these lighting issues we are seeing. By the way, this is not how you are supposed to do lighting in Godot. The ambient lights I created actually confuses the rendering engine of Godot, and it completely screws up the results. Instead, we have to use a very specific node called canvas modulate. It actually achieves exactly what we want, and we don't even have to move it with the player. It always stays on top and it modulates the ambient color. With that being out of the way, I could proceed with adding lights to the player as well as other components like the furnace. This really doesn't look good, and after a lot of digging I actually got a quite nice answer where someone figured out that this is actually an issue in Godot engine. The user Zylan recommended to take a look at the source code. I cloned it locally but really couldn't figure out what the problem is. I really think this is a more advanced issue. I actually might do this in a future video, but not today. Instead, I want to refine the inventory system. It requires some major changes in order to support features like smithing and roguelike mechanics. But that's for another day.
Delete me, erase me, forget me, destroy me, remove me, exclude me, wipe me, clean me, delete me, cancel me, drop me, snip me, edit me, remove me, regress me, delete me, root me, delete me.
It is finally time to rewrite the inventory system. The existing inventory really was just a proof of concept, and other games have implemented all sorts of inventories that serve a particular purpose. For example, the Minecraft inventory is really good to manage all sorts of items and to utilize the crafting system it implements. One of my favorite games of all time, World of Warcraft, offers a great example of a tactile inventory system. Every UI interaction has its own sound effect and visual effect. I want to bring that fidelity into my game as well. The first thing I started with is replacing the old node-based inventory system with a newer resource-based inventory system. I got inspired by the tutorial by Heartbeast, which I can just recommend. It's really great and it helped me a lot to refine my code base. Now I'm gonna show you what I actually changed. Previously, our item GD script extended a node to D. Now I'm extending resource, and what this allows us to do is specifying all the attributes for all the items in this tab on the right. For example, copper, diamond or emerald now have all custom attributes. Another nice feature of this is that all these items are now singletons, so their state is unique across the entire game. For the new inventory system, we need to introduce an action bar where we can have a tool slot and a bag slot. This allows us to drag and drop tools like pickaxes, swords or shovels, as well as opening a bag and inspect items respectively. Once the new inventory is in place, we also require a mouse cursor in order to actually use the drag and drop functionality as well as dropping items out of the bag. I completely redesigned the UI by adding a drop zone as well as the action bar. With the drop zone, you can drop items on the floor out of your inventory. The action bar itself consists of a tool slot, a bag slot, as well as an item tooltip that can show information on an item itself. In game, it looks something like this. When you hover the action bar, it will actually show you item info about the particular slot you are currently selecting. It is currently just a placeholder, but the action slot has a so-called input icon that is supposed to show the mapping to trigger that particular action. The item slot itself is actually quite flexible because it has knowledge about different item types. There's just a problem when a tooltip resizes, it's unable to shrink again. When designing the cursor, I gave it a white outline so it contrasts to the normally very dark game. The first thing you will notice when looking at the new gameplay is that I improved the item toast. So when you collect an item, it is now more obvious what you actually collect. One of the new features is that you can now hover items and it shows tooltips, but you can also move them in the inventory around and switch them out with other items. One of the really cool features is now when you smelt an item, it now shows properly up in the UI and you can also move it around. One of the coolest features though is that you can now drop these items back on the floor. You can see that I can literally empty out my inventory, but I can also pick all these items up again. All these changes I showed today are a requirement for the future game I want it to be. Eventually, I want to build this roguelike crafting game where you can explore different levels of the cave and potentially discover treasures and encounter enemies, but also NPCs. This means for the next video, I intend to finish the smithing mechanic. The idea is that you can actually build your own weapons and tools to further build your character and to have this progression of being stronger and actually using the materials you are gathering. I truly couldn't believe how many people actually watched my first devlog. I'm super grateful for everyone watching, liking and subscribing my videos and giving me very helpful feedback. Let me also know how you like this video. I can't wait to show you what else I've planned for this game. I would say, see you next time.